I have a question for everybody. Who here is a fan of implementing easy steps and getting huge results?
Yes.
Anyone? Oh, you like the hard steps and getting crappy results. Okay. Besides you, most people like easy stuff to do and getting huge feedback from that. So what I'm going to be talking about today is not a diet. It's just a simple lifestyle change that you can implement now that will drastically change your life. I mean, the research is clear. And when you're going through articles, and when I'm going through articles on intermittent fasting, you hear a lot of benefits. So, oh, it does this, 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 but they never tell you why. And that's the challenge for me, because if I don't know how something works, I'm not going to implement it, and I'm not going to be able to maintain it for a long period of time. Because I need to know how things work, because it makes it more of a connection, and we like to do things that we understand. So, intermittent fasting. Now, we got to first kind of back up a little bit and talk about what everyone does in today's society. Nearly every single health professional out there, dietitians, nutritionists, even the general public, they all advocate the 6 small meals a day. Has anyone heard that before? Everyone. 6 small meals a day. And the theory was pretty good. You know, if you eat small meals throughout the day, you're going to keep your metabolism high, and you're going to avoid that starvation mode where the metabolism drops, right? And that's pretty much the theory. And I remember going to junior college, chiropractic college, they all advocate that diet. They all promote eating 6 small meals throughout the day and never going longer than 2 to 3 hours without a meal. So what I did was I tried to find research on it. And you would expect there to be a lot of research, right? Since everyone's doing it. What if I told you there's not one research article implementing this diet, eating small meals throughout the day to keep you healthy, burn fat and stay healthy? Weird, right? Yeah, I know, that never happens. So that kind of struck me as kind of crazy, right? So I looked at the research, and this is actually what the research did say. Say that you had one meal that was 2,000 calories and you ate it. Did you know that you would burn the same amount of calories eating that meal than if you spread that 2,000 calories out throughout the day? So there's no more starvation mode. There's no keeping your metabolism high. That already shoots that theory throughout the roof. But it makes sense because there's not one research supporting that anyway. So that wasn't very hard. And also, this starvation mode that they're talking about, it actually does exist. There actually is a true starvation mode. But it didn't occur until 72 to 96 hours after eating. That's 3 to 4 days does your metabolism plummet. And then I'm thinking, wow, that's a long time. Why would that be? And it all stems back to what our hunter-gatherers and our ancestors did. You see, they didn't have available food around every single block, 24 hours a day. What they did is they would go on these hunting trips and say that they weren't catching any prey, catching anything for 3 to 4 days. Well, your body's smart, because then what your metabolism is going to do, it's going to shut down so you can maintain your body mass and survive. A very intelligent response. But it happened 3 to 4 days after not eating, not 2 to 3 hours. That was completely false. Get that out of your head right now. So, what we're actually made to do is alternate between cycles of feast and famine. See, our ancestors, they don't have grocery stores on every block. They didn't have any of that available food ready to go. They didn't wake up in the morning and have a huge plate of pancakes sitting in front of them ready to devour. They didn't have that. Instead, usually the guys had to go and do on these hunting trips. They'd go days without eating, then they would catch food and they would eat a ton. Then they would go days without eating and then eat a ton. So it alternated like that. And what they found is that this cycling of your eating habits actually produced huge results and made people, basically made people a lot healthier. And we're going to talk about those health benefits pretty soon. So when your body's moving around, when you're expending energy, your body likes to draw energy from a few spots. Your first primary energy source, your body wants to grab its energy through glycogen stores and your blood sugar. So as long as those are replenished up, you're going to be using your glycogen and blood sugar. And the glycogen is kind of stored glucose in your muscle and in your liver. So let's say that we're eating every 2.5 to 3 hours, all day, every day. So that means you're constantly replenishing your glycogen, replenishing your glucose in your blood. How then are you ever going to get to your fat stores? How are you ever going to burn fat as energy if we're only burning the glucose and the glycogen that we keep eating? You can't. You literally can't. And what does everyone want to do? They want to gain muscle or, and burn fat. That's what, or just gain lean muscle mass. But usually people want to burn fat. I don't know many people that don't want to do that. But if you're eating this multiple meals a day throughout the day, you'll never be able to do that. And what they found out also is that when you have glycogen stores in your body, it takes about 6 to 8 hours for those glycogen stores to be metabolized. So what that means is that after 6 to 8 hours after a meal, that is when you will start to use your fat stores as energy, actually burning fat around the midsection, everywhere else where we store fat. But you got to go 6 to 8 hours after eating to get to that mode. Does that make sense? So, intermittent fasting. What exactly is intermittent fasting? Well, first of all, this is not a diet at all. What you're actually doing is you're restricting your eating to a very small window throughout the day. And the very best part about it is that you don't have to restrict calories. Because all these fad diets out there, mostly promote this massive calorie restriction. So people will tend to follow that advice and do this for about 2 days. And then all of a sudden they can become so hungry they start to binge eat and they go off it. So it lasted 2 days and they're done. Because these fad diets don't work. And that's all they are. It's just a fad. It's never based on science. But intermittent fasting, when you just restrict that eating window, but you can still eat the same amount of food, that's easy to implement for people. You can maintain that and you can incorporate that into your daily regimen easy because you don't have to starve yourself. You can literally eat the exact same diet you're eating today and you're going to get all the benefits. So how it first came to light, I guess, intermittent fasting, was around 5 years ago, in 2010. It's a fairly new idea. And what they found is that the researchers out of Duke Medical Center found out that the only experimental approach that increased the lifespan of these animals with cancer was continuous fasting. And that's where you actually restrict calories for multiple days at a time. And they're like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. And they actually found out it increased lifespan by 30%. Now just think about that, 30%. Say your lifespan's 100 years. That's adding 30 extra years to your life. Who would want to live an extra 30 healthy years of your life? I think most people would say they would do that. So they found that out. And then what they realized is that, okay, we know it works with animals, but realistically, humans are not going to do this. They're not going to continuously fast for 2 to 3 days at a time, not eat a thing. Even though they'll get these good results, they're not going to do that. And that's true. No one ever is successful with this massive calorie restriction. So then they found out that intermittent fasting, where you just restrict your eating window, actually gave you nearly identical health benefits. So that's the good news. It's the same thing. And then later, the International Journal of Obesity came out and they said, it is very similar with continuous fasting in weight loss, but intermittent fasting was by far superior in reducing metabolic disease markers such as cholesterol, blood pressure, triglycerides, heart rate. And there's a numerous amount, but those are just the few I want to talk about. So intermittent fasting, we really have something here. And so I'm looking at it. The health benefits are numerous, and I'm briefly just going to go over all the health benefits real quick, and then I'm going to pick 4 specific ones I really want to go into detail with. So first of all, when you intermittent fast throughout the day, you're going to normalize insulin sensitivity. You're going to boost mitochondrial energy efficiency. You're going to be more efficient, finely tuned machine. You're going to increase growth hormone production, which is your anti-aging hormone. You're going to lower inflammation. You're going to lower fat levels. You're going to shed the unwanted fat in the midsection, reduce your cravings, reduce oxidative stress, increase anti-aging longevity, increase brain function, and lower blood pressure. So that's a lot of benefits right there. And so again, it's basically going to clean and detox the body, making it a finely tuned machine. And that sounds pretty awesome. So let's actually look into this in more detail. I want to dig deep into the fat burning aspect, the human growth hormone aspect, the brain function, and the insulin sensitivity. Those 4 I really want to stress today. So, fat burning. Remember what I was talking about earlier. Your body only likes to use fat as energy as a last resort, after all the glycogen and all the blood glucose is out of the system. And that means that since it takes 8 hours for that glycogen to be metabolized, only 8 hours after a meal is when your body is going to be drastically burning fat. Okay, so it's got to be 8 hours after you eat. So when you're in the fasted state, when it's 8 hours after you've eaten, you're in the fasted state. It's kind of like when you get up in the morning after an 8-hour sleep. Now you don't have glycogen in your cells. You don't have blood glucose available for energy. So your body's instantly going to go after fat. But what do we do the first thing in the morning? Eat breakfast. And usually it's the biggest meal of the day, because breakfast, right, is the most important meal of the day. Or is it? So you're going to burn mass amount of fat on this diet. It's actually, sorry, not a diet, this lifestyle change. And also, say that we were going to work out in a fasted state. Wow, think about this. When you're working out, you're using a ton of energy. If you have no muscle glycogen and you have no blood glucose and you go and work out, you're going to be massively decreasing those fat stores in the body, using those for energy. You may feel a little lightheaded at first because you don't have that, but again, it's very short term. You got to make it a habit, and in about 2 weeks, you don't feel that way anymore. But I mean, that is just going to magnify those results there. And oh yeah, stay tuned, because I'm going to be talking about the specific type of training to do while fasting next month. So we're going to kind of tie these two together. So stay tuned. Now, human growth hormone. This is not just for guys. Human growth hormone is essential for both guys and gals alike. It's the fitness hormone. That's what people call it. It has a lot of anti-aging properties. That's why as people age, they can't release growth hormone as efficiently, and it causes this aging effect, and we lose our longevity. But what human growth hormone does, it has a lot to do with healing, growth, and repair. And that's probably the main important fact. You know, when our tissue, that's why when we talk about, when we're talking about how sleeping is so important, the reason why we say that is because that's when your body's releasing growth hormone. And so we always knew that when we're sleeping, your body's releasing growth hormone. But no one ever asked why, when we're sleeping, do we release growth hormone? And I think it's already plain and simple when you talk about this. Insulin and human growth hormone are indirectly related. And this means that when insulin is elevated in the body, you cannot release human growth hormone. So when is insulin released? Well, insulin is only released in the bloodstream when you have a freshly consumed meal. Because that sugar in the blood, the insulin releases, puts the sugar into the cells. So if we have no consumed meal, and we have no consumed meal, we have no insulin, we're going to be able to release growth hormone. When do we not have a freshly consumed meal? When we're sleeping. You have 8 hours of no sleep, or 8 hours of no eating, you're going to have low insulin, therefore that's when our body's making mass amounts of growth hormone. So it makes sense, but it doesn't have to be just when you're sleeping. But that's usually, since we're eating throughout the day, that's usually the only time it occurs. And I never really thought about that until I did the research this time. And this is the coolest part, because say that it increased, human growth hormone by 20%, 30%. I would still do it. That's still fantastic results there. But the American College of Cardiology found out that it increased 1,300% in women, human growth hormone, and a whopping 2,000% in males. And on this top picture, I'm not talking about this synthetic, crappy human growth hormone that usually elderly males get injections of for the anti-aging effect. We're talking about the natural released human growth hormone from the pituitary. So that's in response to the human growth hormone. Now, let's look at brain function, because this is fascinating. Your brain, when you're in that fasted state, you're starting to use that fat as energy, your fat stores are going to release ketones in the bloodstream, and that's going to be used as brain food. And your brain actually much rather prefers ketones as an energy source than blood glucose. Ketones are a lot more efficient, and what they found out is that if the brain is getting ketones as its energy source instead of glucose, you're going to increase memory, increase concentration, and you're also going to have a huge protective effect against Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. And that's huge. We spend more on Alzheimer's in this country than cancer. So it's a big deal. BDNF, anyone heard of that compound before? Brain-derived neurotrophic factor, BDNF. It's a natural protein that we have that actually activates stem cells in the brain to make new brain cells. Intermittent fasting, when you're in that fasted state, you increase this brain-derived neurotrophic factor by 400%. So that means if you increase this substance by 400%, and one of the main goals of this is to activate your brain stem cells into making brand new neurons, nerves, brain cells, do you think that's going to help your brain? I mean, 400%. And it has a huge role in neural health, protection, and also it really preserves the health of your neuromuscular junction, which is where the nerve controls a muscle. Right where the nerve innervates the muscle, that's called the neuromuscular junction. And a lot of times when people lose their strength as they age, it's because of defects with that. It's not really the muscle itself that's going bad, it's that junction, the nerve connecting to the muscle that's not working properly anymore. So this increase in brain-derived neurotrophic factor is huge. Now on to insulin sensitivity, because this is kind of confusing, and I know insulin resistance is being stressed all the time now. Insulin resistance. And they found out that insulin resistance is basically linked to every single chronic disease out there. When you're talking, it destroys your blood vessels, it increases heart disease, cancer, diabetes, stroke, osteoporosis. And that's just to name a few, and that's all from insulin resistance. So if we look at these two pictures here, what you're going to find, the one on the left, this is a normal response. So you're going to see the bottom, those little blue dots, that's blood glucose being released in the body after a meal. The insulin that's being released on the very top by the pancreas, you only need a little bit of insulin to put that glucose into the cells. That's efficient. That means you're very sensitive to insulin. You only need a little bit amount of insulin released for all that glucose to go into the cell. And that's what you want, because that means your body's very efficient at utilizing the energy that you're eating. Picture on the right. You eat the same meal, you release the same blood glucose, but now that little amount of insulin is not responsive to the body anymore. Now you need a ton of insulin being released, and what happens, that ton of insulin being released, it's still ineffective at bringing the glucose into the cells. So you're left with a condition called hyperinsulinemia, and that's just a fancy term for too much insulin in the blood. And when you have too much insulin in the blood, that's what it means to be insulin resistant, leading to every chronic disease out there. And when you think about this, if we're eating these small 6 meals a day of these processed carbohydrates, always increasing blood sugar, that's like, and then the insulin gets released. After a while, just constantly doing its job, it's going to lose its effect. It's kind of like when you hear an annoying sound in your ear. It's really annoying at first, but after a while, you kind of become immune to it. You kind of forget about it. It's kind of like what's going on with the body. When you're eating all these meals, your insulin can only react so much, and then finally it just loses its effect. So, with the insulin benefits, the brain benefits, and the growth hormone benefits, we're going to tie this down into 3 different fasting plans. And there's basically 3 options for you guys when it comes to intermittent fasting. The first 2 I'm not a big fan of. The first one is called the 5-2 intermittent fasting plan. Basically, it's where you fast for 2 days, eat normal for 5 days. That's the first one. And the second one is the alternate day fasting. And you got it. It's fasting one day, eating normal the next day. Fasting, eating normal. And it's alternating like that. Now the problem with that is when your week is so sporadic like that, it's hard to have a consistent lifestyle, to make a consistent regimen going on in your life. And that's why I prefer restricting your daily window daily. Because when you add something consistently in your life, you're able to do it over and over again. And that's why it's easier to literally work out a little bit every day instead of doing it once Monday, once Thursday, and once Saturday. Because you're breaking up your system too much. You want to make it consistent throughout the day, and that's what responds to people's behavior. And so when you're eating this restricted eating window each day, well, I'm going to share with you my personal routine on how this is done. So what you're going to do is you're going to break down your eating window to 8 hours a day, which means for the additional 16 hours, you're not eating. Now, the cool part is that when you're sleeping, that's 8 hours right there. So the first half of the time you have to fast, you're sleeping, so that's the easy part. And then like you see here. In the morning, I skip breakfast. The most important meal of the day. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. But the good news, coffee lovers, you can have coffee. Yes. Black, got it. Yep, it just can't have sugar. Because any sugar you put in the system is gonna increase insulin, increase blood sugar. You're then not gonna use your fat stores anymore.
No cream?
No cream. Nope. Coffee and tea is okay. Lunch then becomes my first meal of the day. And that's around 12 p.m. And then I snack throughout the day, and then dinner at around 7:30 is my last meal of the day. So I'm eating between basically 12 and 8, and I'm fasting the remaining times.
You snack.
And I snack throughout the day between lunch and dinner, but not outside that window. Only in that 8-hour window is when I eat. So I still eat a ton of calories throughout the day. I mean, I eat a lot of calories, but it's just in that 8-hour window. And I've been doing this on and off for about 2 years. And what I do is I do this every weekday. And then I go off it Saturday, Sunday. Just because it's hard, it's kind of nice to kind of have a cheat day, if you will. You know, so I do this throughout the week, make it my normal routine, which is easy to follow. And then on the weekends, I just live it up. Yeah. So, since it's not a diet, but that doesn't really mean that you can eat just anything you want. Yes, it's true. If you eat a crappy diet, you will still get pretty killer results just following this plan. However, you are what you eat at the end of the day. So if you're eating crappy fats, crappy processed carbs and sugars, your cells are going to be sick even though you might have little low fat stores. Just because you have a low amount of fat doesn't necessarily mean you're healthy. But I think everyone here wants to be healthy, so you still want to pay attention to your diet. You know, you want to limit those processed carbs and instead replace it with healthy fats, vegetables, fruits, all of that good stuff. And in the morning, gotta tell you, when you're skipping breakfast, because I found that that's the easiest way, not many people are gonna skip dinner. When you skip breakfast, you will get hungry in the morning for the first week. And that's what I noticed. Literally after 2 weeks, your body, that's about enough time for your body to adequately burn fat as its primary tool, and you won't need to have those cravings anymore. You won't have those sugar cravings. You won't have that food cravings, because most of those cravings we get is for sugars in the first place. So you limit the sugars and you get your body adapted to burning fat, you're not gonna have those cravings anymore. And again, I incorporate it every day during the week. And I just wanted to spread a caution out to people who should not do this. And really everyone should, except people who have congenitally low blood sugar, and for those pregnant and nursing mothers. And let's just talk about the pregnancy first. When you're pregnant, I just want you to focus on having a healthy diet. You know, we don't need to restrict eating windows because you're taking care of a baby too. It's not just about yourself. So pregnant women should not do this. And also when you're nursing, because you're still basically using your nutrition for the baby, just focus on nice, healthy diet in that case. And also for people who have low blood sugar naturally, if you have low blood sugar and then you diminish it even more, you're gonna feel pretty loopy, a little dizzy. So I wouldn't recommend that. You know, I'd recommend just basically just going by a good diet instead and not doing the intermittent fasting that way. So, and I just had to put this because you know it's the old wives' tale. The breakfast is the most important meal of the day. You know, the cracking of the knuckles causes arthritis. You know, we've heard a lot of these things. Not true. The world is flat, you know. No, these are not true at all. Never one research article saying breakfast is important. But somehow, just like the 6 small meals a day, we get these ideas, we hear them everywhere, and that's just common knowledge, and we all think it's right. But we just never questioned it. So, you know, I know Tony the Tiger would disagree with me. You know, breakfast, important, they're great, you know, don't skip breakfast, oh my gosh, eat your Cheerios. No. No, no, no. So, again, like I was talking about, the benefits of this become, because these benefits are already crazy. I mean, do it for 2 weeks and you will be happy you did. But they're even further magnified if you train in a fasted state. So what that means, if I go back to my regimen here, before lunch at 12 p.m., I work out. And so I'm massively decreasing my fat stores in my body, and then right after my workout, I eat like the biggest killer meal ever. And it is awesome. And I feel good after that. But right here, again, So again, like I said, right before lunch is when I work out, because I want to make that workout regimen at the very end of my fasting window, because there's no way you're going to do it in the middle of your fasting window, because then you're not going to be able to eat after your workout, and that's not fun. And your muscles need nutrition right away too, right after your workout. So then that's exactly what I'm going to talk about. And I had to add this picture in there just because it made me. I know it sounds crazy, but you got to do it. Got to do it. So stay tuned for next month. I'm going to be talking about high intensity interval training and some other training techniques that, again, are going to be easy to implement and are going to give you huge results. Thank you.
Thank you.
And references. Questions, anybody? No? Perfect. No, I'm just kidding.
Is there a certain, when you do your exercise, is there a certain length of time you need to do the exercise? Like certain amount of minutes?
No. I mean, I would say, like, you probably want to give yourself, I give myself about 25 minutes of exercise, but I'm not talking at the gym. I'm just solely getting my work done. For one, because I got to be back here soon, you know, after lunch break. But no, I mean, you can do anything. Any type of exercise you do, you're going to be increasing that metabolism. That means that your body's going to be looking for energy, and you're going to be burning fat regardless.
I thought, and it's approximately 8 hours before it starts using.
Yep, it takes about 8 hours for.
I thought it was even longer than that.
6 to 8 hours.
Oh.
It takes 6 to 8 hours to kind of reset your glycogen and your blood sugar. And only after that is when your body will turn to fat as its energy, because it's got to get its energy from somewhere.
Yeah.
It just doesn't have the available blood glucose or the glycogen to use from.
And would you say, like, in that 2-week period, it seems like to me that when you start doing it, it's almost like you're retraining your body, or you know?
Yeah, you are.
It gets in like a pattern, and
Every time you implement something new, you're going to be changing your pattern.
Yeah.
And that's why it's a lifestyle thing. It's not a diet, because you're still eating the same thing. You're not cutting calories. It's the same thing. You're just basically skipping breakfast.
And I have found that, I mean, I'm not even hungry in the morning.
I know. And
Not at all. I get to a certain point, like maybe, because I do it like 16 fast and 8.
Yeah.
When it gets close to that 16 hours, I start getting hungry, but that may be just because I've gotten into that habit.
Well, yeah, that's your cycle. And exactly, you will not get hungry in the morning anymore.
No, not
But you
at
have
all.
to go through, it's kind of like quitting coffee. Anyone tried that? Kind of sucks the first week, you know, and it's the same thing. Quitting breakfast is the same thing. You're going to go through a little kind of alarm stage, but after that, your cravings for sugar, sweets go away.
Yeah.
And I can't tell you how many patients bring us food. I don't eat it.
Are you careful about your fruits and the sugar content of fruits? Or
Absolutely not.
potatoes?
No. I think that gets a little too much. I think what, you know, and like Dr. Mercola does that a lot, you know, I recommend limiting fruits. I think he's mostly basing that on people with already chronic disease. You know, because if someone does have diabetes, you know, I wouldn't recommend eating a ton of fruit. However, fruit combined with the fiber doesn't raise your insulin like processed sugar does. So really, it's just the processed food. It's not the fruits that are killing people today. It's not. It's the processed corn syrup, sugar, yeah.
Are you basically putting yourself into ketosis or no?
Yeah, yeah, because when you're burning fat, your brain's only using ketones as energy, exactly. Yep, and your brain, you know, it gets a bad rap, but that's your brain's preferred energy is ketones, not glucose. So you can be eating all day, giving it glucose, it doesn't really like that, or you can give it ketones and boost your BDNF, your brain-derived neurotrophic factor, by 400%, and be smarter, more intelligent, learn better. You know, you can choose. Yeah.
So a lot of people can't work out until after work, around 5 or 6. So do you have a good plan for those people instead of?
I mean, you can still do it, or you can, I mean, it's tough because for my schedule it works out, but people have schedules where they can't necessarily do that. Ideally, in a perfect world, you would do your workout right before your fast is ending. Yeah. That way, right after, you can eat a huge meal after that and be out of that, you know. But if you work till 5, I would still encourage to work out, and you can still do the fasting. When I was in school, I was doing it, but you just can't work out till later. And again, an effective workout, all you need is 20 minutes. So I know you have an hour lunch, So you can kind of get a little bit of that during that time, but it doesn't take a whole lot of working out to get huge benefits, because all your body's using now is, at that point, is fat. You're not using glucose, you're just massively burning your fat. And someone raised their hand over here somewhere?
I saw in your coffee it had bulletproof.
Yeah.
So is that because of the fat in it and that's allowed, there's no sugar?
And it's kind of there's something called the bulletproof fast, which is basically intermittent fasting, but instead of having black coffee in the morning, it's bulletproof coffee. And while that happens is because coconut oil in your bulletproof, so sorry, let me back up. Bulletproof coffee, it's organic coffee, so you'd make it in like your coffee pot, just normal, and then you're gonna put it in a blender and you're gonna add a tablespoon of coconut oil and a tablespoon of grass-fed butter, and you blend it up. That's called bulletproof coffee. And the theory behind that, and this is actually researched, is that the coconut oil is a medium chain fatty acid. It's instant brain food, so that way, if people are starting off feeling kind of loopy in the morning without breakfast, this gives their brain instant food right away. And it also increases mental clarity. And since coconut oil has no sugar, it's not gonna increase your insulin levels, so you're still good with that. So you can actually have bulletproof coffee. However, creamer and stuff like that, that's, first of all, it's not natural. It's a dairy product. It's vastly pasteurized, processed, and it does have sugar. Most creamer. Yeah, so bulletproof coffee would be a great alternative for that.
Oh, it's butter? You said what kind of butter?
Grass-fed raw butter.
Oh, grass-fed
Yep.
raw butter. And if you can't get that?
If you go to Whole Foods and that, you can actually get it. Yeah, they have like Ancient Organics ghee and stuff like that. It's good.
Ghee?
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 Yeah.
I think we can get
And you
that.
said coconut oil?
Coconut oil, yeah. And that will not increase your insulin, so that's okay to have in the morning.
I think I have some.
Combined?
Both, yeah. Because that's what it is. That's what bulletproof is. But what bulletproof did is they kind of made their own oil to use. Instead of coconut oil, they made their own special oil. If you look at the ingredients, it's coconut oil. But they just like to make, because they term the term bulletproof, so they also wanted to have things to sell to the public. In my opinion, it's a little bit of a ripoff, but because you're going to get the same thing from coconut oil. You don't need to buy their products, just make the same thing.
So some morning you had to be really alert, you could throw that in.
Oh,
Ordinary.
well, I do it every day. And once you have it, it tastes so good that you'll never go back to,
Oh, bulletproof?
yeah,
Tastes so good.
it does. It's amazing. And then if you have a Vitamix, which is like the blender on steroids, I mean, it turns into like this like foamy, beautiful, just creamy goodness. And it is awesome.
Oh.
Yeah.
I have trouble drinking black coffee unless I had breakfast. I just gives me terrible diarrhea.
Uh-huh.
Would the butter and the coconut oil help with that?
Yeah, because coffee, I mean, if anyone here gets the Mercola newsletters, you're starting to get these massive benefits of coffee. And what happens is you add fat with that coffee, it increases the absorption of all those antioxidants, those good natural compounds in that coffee.
So I'd be okay with
Yeah, but it's got to be organic. Coffee is like the #1 pesticide sprayed bean. So if you're getting just conventional coffee, you're not getting these benefits. So make sure it's organic. Costco has organic right now, by the way. Yeah, but yeah, try it because I think that would help. You know, yeah, I think it would help. Any other questions?
Is the Costco organic already ground? Or is
No,
it grind?
it's in bean. No, I grind my beans fresh every morning. I like good coffee, good strong coffee. Yeah, I don't mess around when it comes to my coffee. I'm from Seattle. I mean, come on. Any other questions? It's a tablespoon of coconut oil, a tablespoon of butter, and about, I go until like my coffee pot hits the 4. You know, I make enough for me and the girl, but I like to take it right when it hits the 4, I go and pour it in the blender because that's like the strongest part of the coffee right there. And I like it really strong. She likes it kind of weak, so it's like perfect.
Just don't tell.
Yeah, yeah. Yes. A tablespoon of butter, tablespoon of coconut oil, and about 2 cups of coffee. Yep. Anything else? Yeah.
What other suggestions are there for your first meal? I mean, when you're eating your first meal, it doesn't matter what you start with, or
Well, no, I mean,
proteins, or
no, it really doesn't. But obviously, for every meal, you want to have a good, healthy protein. You want to have vegetables, good, healthy fats. So anything that's not like bread, cereals, and grains, I would say would be awesome.
So you could have like
The what?
poached eggs or something?
Yeah,
and-
that'd be awesome.
And so
I eat eggs like a madman. Yeah, at least 4 a day. Healthy fats, egg yolks are awesome for you. It's good for your eyesight. That's one of the 20 foods good for your eyesight that Dr. DeWitt came out with. So
About grains, what about quinoa and amaranth?
quinoa and what?
Amaranth is another good one.
Okay, yeah, quinoa and chia seed are not a true grain.
Okay.
They call them pseudo grains. They're a little bit different. They're more in the vegetable side. And what's cool about quinoa is it's one of the only vegetarian complete proteins you can get. One of the only. You can have complete protein if you mix all these foods together, but quinoa is one of your complete proteins altogether. Yeah, that's fantastic. I eat a ton of quinoa. Anything else? Awesome. Well, thank you.